What is happening? We're back. It's been more than a minute, Quinny, but we are back here once again for. Is this episode 9? Are we into the 90th minute of the End Product podcast?
That's what it appeared to be when I went to check setting up for today's dish. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, 90th minute. Added time is on the way.
That's it, mate. That's it. So how you been? It's been a long time since the two of us have had a chat. I know I've been following your content and that. You've obviously been really busy, but how you been, mate?
Hi, it's been getting on. It's been a very busy end to the season Sorare wise. It doesn't I don't think we've ever had a quiet end to the season, but it feels like as soon as the season's ended, we're already getting ushered into the new season with some changes and announcements and stuff like that. And even the way the football calendar kind of finished off the last week or two there, like the Scottish League and whatever finished off, and then we had some of the other leagues finishing off, and then we had the Champions League final. And then today we've got international friendlies, so it's just it's just continuous. There's no rest for the wicked on this one, and so it's been a weird one. Normally it's a bit of winding down. It feels like I've wound down a little bit. I've had a wee bit more time outside in the sun and all that kind of thing. But equally, it's it doesn't feel like there's a day goes by at the moment where there's not something happening. How are you? Long time.
Yeah, but I've been busy as well, just with general work and life stuff as you do. Weekends have been busy and that, but yeah, on the SO5 front, quite similar to you, really. It just doesn't feel like the same standard kind of end of the season, does it? I don't know if that's, like you said, maybe the coverage of these international friendlies, which we wouldn't normally have. But I mean, there's still odds and sods happening, isn't there, in the different leagues? I've got a couple of players that are in the Norwegian league, and my South Americans are still active over there. The Brazilian league, my players in those divisions are pretty busy, actually. So I've had some selections for the game weeks since the European sort of champ closed up properly. But obviously we had the Champions League final the weekend, which was great. I don't know if you caught that, but that was good. The first half, obviously, Dortmund come through. Probably should have been ahead, I think, going into the halftime break. And then, Real Madrid coming through in the second half. I think a lot of us expected them to be a little bit more, I don't know, I was expecting them to come out flying out of the blocks. I think one of the commentators used the same phrase. And yeah, they didn't really come out as fast, but they got the job done eventually, didn't they? It was a very Real Madrid performance for me. They did enough in the end, and I think by the end of it, Dortmund had kind of run out of ideas a little bit, but it was a good final. I thought that Madrid would probably have edged it, but I think Dortmund were definitely better than I expected them to be on the night.
Yeah, it was one of those finals where I was thinking if Dortmund are going to win this, they have to really take the game by the scruff of the neck and not let the occasion get the better of them. Me and Harry were chatting about this on the Deadline show, but for Real Madrid, it could, and it ended up being just another day at the office for them. And that's kind of the way the game went. It wasn't mad exciting, but Real Madrid didn't, they didn't look uncomfortable really, even when Dortmund were kind of going through. So it was it was a decent enough game and all the rest of it. But it did feel like ultimately it was always going to be a Real Madrid killer. 2 seconds.
Yeah. They got the job done in the end, didn't they? And I think, like you said, there's another day at the office for them. But in terms of SO5 bits and bobs, have you had any interesting wins in the last few weeks since we last spoke? Anything in your gallery that we should know about?
I've actually been doing a good bit. It's funny you say that, Stish, because I've actually been doing a good bit of. I've just been letting the YouTube folks know that we're pretty much. I think we're only live on Twitch here, so we need to get this uploaded later into the old YT. We tried to fix the system. That's why we're a wee bit later coming in, but it still managed to glitch on us, which is a nightmare. So yeah, if you're watching this on Twitch, fist bump to you. Thanks for everyone who's joined us. And if you're watching us after we've been live, of course, fist bump and all that good stuff. But I've been kind of making a lot of these preparations since we got the announcement of the change of format and everything else. And I've been saying since day one, so you'll be probably sick of me saying it, but how vital, how important I think collection bonus is going to be at every level of the game. And yeah, so I've been kind of shirt swapping around some super rares. I've got a wee row of 4 here. I'm maybe going to try and get a 5th one sorted out. And it might not seem much, but I'm quite confident that it's going to make a big difference. So I managed to get Adnan Angelino from Galatasaray. So I managed to swap that into a one-off. Thanks very much to Gator Guy, who owned that card. around for 15 quid or something, $20, whatever that is. And I managed to get a Mukiele from a trade bot with like Starfelt and James Forrest super rare and things like that. I got Galan swapped around from an Atletico to a Celta Vigo shirt. And I've got Gabri Vega, so that's a one-off as well. So I've got, with that Leipzig collection and with the Celta Vigo one, I've got 2 cards and they get to 2%, which is nice. And then I got Hamari shirt swapped into the same season that I've got the Baranishia for, so they'll get 1% between them when he ages in. So it might not seem like much, but like I'm quite confident that when do we get into the new season and when All-Stars and 240s and all these things are retired, that like maybe my best team hits a bit harder, maybe my second team becomes a bit more competitive when you've got like all my guys at the top percentages, and then some of these Girona ones especially, because the collection bonus on that is locked in. Basically 5% is nigh. So I'm hoping this will be a good wee differential for me on some of the bigger cards. We'll see how some of them shake out in the transfer windows. Some of them might move to a worse situation, some of them might move out of champion. But that's only the real kind of moves I've been making that I would call exciting, if you even want to think of them as that. But yeah, I'm get all the ducks in a row a wee bit better.
Kamada in there, who is apparently on his way to Crystal Palace.
Confirmed this morning. Oh, that's going to be. I think it's. I was worried about it, and I kind of stopped on getting him when it was in the air, and then I thought he was going to be signing on at Lazio, and that's what made me buy him, because I thought, oh, brilliant! Well, just in our season at Lazio, with Tudor's the manager, that might not be happening anymore. Then I like that, because I find it hard to see him playing every game when Elise and Eze are there.
Yeah.
But the very strong rumours are that Eze has a gentleman's agreement, and like Spurs are swooping, and that might happen quite quickly. So if Eze leaves, I think it's a great move, because Palace are only playing weekends and Kamada will just walk right into that position and do the job already. So have a step up the Premier League, of course, from Bundesliga, Europa League, and even Lazio, Serie A. But I do fancy it more now if Eze does move on and he can just walk into that slot.
Definitely feels a bit like an Eze bandage, doesn't it, for me? And I saw the same, I think, news that you did about this gentleman's agreement that he would be allowed to leave at the end of this season, and apparently Spurs are in for him. So, yeah, I could see that. I think he fits in quite nicely at Spurs as well, but it makes you wonder then, like, is he playing in a similar position to someone like James Maddison if he moves into that Spurs team?
No, he's going to take up the Bentancur or the Sarr position. So they'll still have maybe Basuma. This is just my opinion of watching Ange or whatever. They'll still have Basuma or whoever they maybe try and put in at that position. They'll still have Maddison, and Eze is going to be like the O'Reilly, the Aaron Moy, the bigger, stronger midfielder that will go everywhere, can do everything, connect to play, crash into the box, that kind of stuff. That's what I see anyway. He could play a bit of a Kulusevski role if Ange is kind of adapted to the Premier League and maybe thinks he needs that power in the front three. I could see Eze doing a shift up there for Tottenham. But I don't think it'll be directly for... I think he plays with Maddison. I don't think they take one or the other out of the team.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I think the way that Tottenham play on the front foot, that makes sense as well, definitely, doesn't it? Having those quite a dynamic midfield there, if that's how Ange wants to play, which, it did come unstuck a little bit for him towards the end of the season, didn't it? Where, he was like gung-ho, it was like all or nothing. But if you've got the right clientele in that midfield, then it could work out quite nicely. And I think that it's a brand of football that Spurs fans want to see as well. So hopefully it goes well for him. And yeah, fair play to Eze. A couple of friends of mine actually involved in a tournament he put on for the kids around here recently, and he was giving footballs away and food and football kit, and he turned up to do the presentation and that. And by all accounts, top guy. So wish Eze the best of luck wherever he does end up, but it does definitely look like he's on his way out of Palace, unfortunately for Palace fans. But Palace been doing some pretty good business in this window. Not only the news of Kamada, but also the young lad from Betis on his way over to bolster the back line there. Now, I think Palace will be hoping to keep hold of Mark Guehi as well, who is probably going to start for England tonight based on the news that's come out ahead of the Bosnia friendly. Obviously, England coming into this Euros with a lot of players limping their way in. It's going to be really interesting to see how these next couple of games pan out, because where other countries maybe have that sort of like comfort of getting the best team together, you know, maybe giving a few players a run out to have a last minute look at them. I think Southgate finds himself in a situation where he needs to get rid of maybe 6 or 7 players, but there's a solid chance that 3 or 4 of them are already picked for him because of injuries. And yeah, there's quite a few players missing tonight. Apparently, Saka is probably not likely to be fit until Friday. John Stones has just come in. Harry Kane is probably fit, but not likely to start. So yeah, I was having a little look at the sort of predicted 11s, and yeah, it's not looking like a strong 11 from an England perspective, and I'm quite mildly worried about it. I think going into the Euros, you'd almost, I know it's just friendlies and that heading in, and if anything, Southgate needs to have a look at the players that are on the fringe, really, more than anyone. But you do still really want to get those players playing together, get that gel coming in the, you know, the early stages of the tournament. We don't want to be figuring our way out of the group stage. We want to go in strong and have a good group stage, which, you know, whether you're a fan of Southgate tactically or not, we have actually been pretty good in the group stages under him in comparison to the previous managers. So we really want to try and keep that going. I think the last thing England's players needs is all of the British press on their backs after a couple of poor performances in the group stages. So kind of hoping we can just get through these next couple of friendlies without any major injury worries going into it. But what about yourself and Scotland's preparations? Obviously, they've got a lot less time to prepare with that opening game. And how are you feeling about the Scottish chances moving into the tournament?
That's going to be a funny one, isn't it? Because Scotland just, you know, we've got into the tournament in a nice kind of vein and really strong kind of Premier League level kind of squad for the most part, but missing a striker. And then the big striker that might do something has done himself, Lyndon Dykes, and he's out. So it'll be a bit of a square peg in a round hole. Maybe somebody like Ryan Christie or Ben Doak kind of fill in that position, you could see. But it's a funny one. Don't really know how optimistic to be is kind of the point I'm getting at, because it is still Scotland. We still have to play Germany on the opening game of the season. We still then are playing Switzerland in the second game, and Switzerland are no mugs. And it feels like it will be an all or nothing in the last game of the group against Hungary. So like, I'm excited for it, you know, and I think like the innovations we've had with rivals and, you know, all the kind of international stuff that Sorare have lined up for is like, I would always care the level I do when it comes to Scotland, but I definitely care generally international scene a little bit more now as a result. In like these friendlies, normally it would just be a haze. You wouldn't really be thinking about the squad and who's actually getting minutes and all that stuff. But now all of a sudden it's in full focus, it's in full attention, because yeah, there's tons of stuff on the cards for this summer, no pun intended. And like, yeah, it's again, I think for all of us who are listening, you'll be listening to this podcast, certainly like the Sorare veterans, we always kind of see the prelude of what these international tournaments can be from Sorare in the past, leading into a big kind of crescendo for the new season launch, which we're all kind of eagerly anticipating. So it feels like a great time to just be leaning in to all this stuff. And yeah, I say the good thing about rivals, obviously, is don't need to worry as much about DNPs. That's a nice kind of relief element of it all. You can just wait for the teams to come out and stuff. But yeah, I think for Scotland, England, for everyone that's Sorare minded anyway, that's watching the tournament, there's a lot of reason to be excited just about any particular nation you might be following. But even beyond that, I think definitely the interest is broadened into, you know, what group am I going to lean into? What team will I target? You know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know about you, but I think my top picks in terms of like on paper, obviously we don't know until the tournament kicks off, but if we're looking at rivals and looking at you know, the Sorare game and like what cards do you really want to have in these sort of game weeks? I really like Germany, Portugal, from the early, you know, and I think like on paper you'd say England as well, but I want to see how many players, how many injuries we're dealing with. But I think Germany, and having that home advantage going into it, Tony Kroos back, it's written, isn't it? For me, there's something there. There's a storyline that has to play out. So I think Germany for me. Obviously, France are always strong. They look strong coming into the tournament. But yeah, really intrigued to see how it pans out. But I'll definitely be. I think if I look at my gallery as well and what I've already got, Germany's obviously kind of like piques my attention because I've got Wirtz, I've got Kroos, I've got Kimmich, I've got Musiala. So I've got 4 of the kind of like the big hitter cards in that midfield. It's just a shame they're not a bit more spread out through the rest of the team, and I could sort of make a bit more use of them, sort of stack in. And I've got Ter Stegen, but you know, I don't expect him to get minutes at the tournament unless Neuer has like a bad injury or something. So I think that's big. The big issue I've got to deal with personally at the moment is if I'm going to play this tournament at peak, like optimum performance, I need goalkeeper options. I don't know about you, but I have Donnarumma, who should start. But other than that, I don't really have any sort of Euro goalkeeping options. Are you contemplating dipping into the market for this tournament? Is that something you're thinking of doing?
So no, not really. I think like I underestimated it probably coming into it in the sense that like I did write this off quite quickly that I wasn't going to have an international team and all the rest of it. But I must say, I'm just going to get the share screen on the go again because the level of detail that Sorare managed to deliver does impress me. You know, having this little tab on your gallery to just go swish and see everything is lovely now. We've got confirmed squads or whatever. But when I'd done this, like, I was like, oh man, I could, like, Skripski's probably not going to get minutes for Poland, but it's like, man, I do have a decent outfield here, like maybe for a game or two, you know, like maybe a wee bit gutted I never went and got the keeper. But for here, I've got one keeper, I've got all black at least in the Euros.
Yep.
And then I've maybe got some wild cards and stuff like that. I've maybe got like a team that can list. So, like, I'm probably not going to go out and get anything. As well, for me and Eustace and a few others that listen to this benefit from a wee bit of an advantage as well when it comes to rivals, because if you keep all common, you know, you're only playing commons. So
True.
I'm not quite get that same incentive to go and get like, oh, let's go and get 4 Scottish limiteds just so that I know that when I'm doing that, I can kick on with it. Or you know, German or Belgian or whatever, you know. So I'm quite set with what I've got. We'll roll the dice, and I'm not holding my breath, but crossing my fingers.
Yeah, well, from playing Rivals lately, I've been playing it quite a lot since the sort of like 2.0 update. I don't know about you, but I've been playing it quite a bit, and I think that the matching is a little bit better now. So if you do end up with like a rare card in your lineup, you tend to go up against another player who just has a rare card. Like they try. It's very, you know, like I think there was 1 or 2 occasions where I had a couple of rares and a super, and I went up against someone who had like 4 uniques and a rare. But other than that, most of the time, in terms of like the overall power, when I'm not so much now, because I think that you know, when you looked at Rare Pro and the way that used to work, and even to an extent, I guess, super rare with the unique in there and getting the bonus from that. I always used to like looking at my potential lineups as like as a percentage, like how high out of 100 do these players need to hit on average, like, and trying to sort of like forget the bonus. And I think they kind of, that's the way they kind of seem to be balancing it now as well. Is like what is the overall kind of percentage, like maximum score that this team can hit based on all the bonuses that you're adding in with your limiteds or your rares or your supers, etc. And I think yeah, when I get matched up, there's never like a massive amount of difference between me and who I'm getting matched up with. But there's definitely still a part of me, like yourself, just saying there, if you can go in with all commons, you know, you're probably in with a shout, because you're more likely to be going in against maybe people who don't know the game as well as we do, having played it as long as we have. You're more likely to get matched up with a complete like noob if you're going commons, because they've only got commons and they haven't got cards, or you're a free to play only. And yeah, I guess in that sense, you might assume that these people don't know as much about the scoring matrix as we do. So you feel a little bit better about going in on those commons. But I'm definitely looking forward to the Euros tournament. I've been enjoying Rivals 2.0. I've been finding myself thinking a bit more tactically about the games that I play and the ones that I don't, to make sure that I don't just waste my my tickets, or like ways of like getting. I did actually buy a card to like get the 3 tickets. Like they got me on that one, so it's working. I don't know if it's working for everyone, but they got me with that one. And I think because cards are so cheap now, you don't. If you do want to play over the weekend and you've only got 1 ticket left and you don't want to wait 12 hours for the next one or whatever, you can spend out on the auction market for like 50, 60p, get yourself like a limited card. who plays as well. That isn't just like a throwaway card. You might get a card of a player who plays in like the contender division or something like that. But yeah, at the minute, there's a lot of value to be had in picking up the K League and J League cards on the cheap, because you've got that full season of in-season utility for them if you're looking to push into those cash tournaments as well, which has been quite nice winning the odd card from that region at the moment. It's actually opened up a second entry. I managed to put 2 cash entries in this week. Granted, they weren't fantastic, but they were entries nonetheless. And they haven't done the business for me, sadly. But yeah, before you know it, there I am. I'm up to 2 entries on in season, and that's all off of cards that I've won and picked up recently. They're not cards that I've had to go out and purchase or trade into. They're just players that I've managed to win over the course of a few weeks. And yeah, a couple of them are quite decent and a couple of them aren't. But, you know, if I really want to compete, I can go into the market and pick up something that scores a little bit better than what I've got available at the minute. And who knows, I might be clawing back some cash rewards in the coming months with a bit of luck.
Yeah, I think I kind of walked myself into an accidental in-season summer team as well, just for some card wins I had. So it's definitely been I've kind of felt it firsthand, and hearing you say something similar is lovely as well. But again, it's something we've been saying on the podcast really since we had the announcement of everything, that you are going to be a classic and in-season kind of player, whether you plan on it or not, because like the in-season cards you're going to collect were your classic cards, and equally, like if you are just planning on playing in-season, part of the best way of getting cards to top you up and all that is by having your excess in classic at some point. It may not be right away, maybe next season that's something you add into your arsenal or whatever, but it has been really easy for me to just like accrue a little team. It's not won anything yet. It's not really got much of a sniff yet, to be quite honest with you, but I've definitely got like a base lineup that if I was to wind the clock back to when I first started and think, imagine you could just win a team of that caliber and it didn't even bother you, you know, like, or, you know, like a playing goalkeeper, midfielders that play most of the time, might take some sets, a, you know, young striker that plays minutes, you know, you would say, aye, that's good going, you know, and I think that's an understated part of the ease of winning handy tier 4s and tier 3s, because that's what most of them are. You know, none of them are that high a tier, but it does feel also in that kind of notes, guess what I'm getting to is like the tier system for the rewards we've been winning back end of the season feels a bit more just like the amount of people I've seen with, including myself, like a tier 5, tier 4, and you're like, wow, that's actually a handy wee card, you know, versus the T1 or the T2, people are like, oh, him, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think I can't remember what tier he was, but I managed to win Yoonbit Garam, who is a good scorer in he plays as Suwon in the K League, if you're not familiar with him. But he's one of the better sort of like all-around scorers in the league. So he's a really useful card. He's in season. I've got him, you know, like I think their season tends to finish like late December usually, if I remember rightly. So, you know, I've got plenty of months of in-season utility for him. And, you know, he's L15 of 58. So he's a really useful card. And I think, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that I won him as like a tier 3 or 4 in like All-Star. Whereas I think if I played in Contender, you'd expect him to be in that sort of tier, at least above a tier 2, I think, given his output scoring wise. And also he's one of those like almost like nailed on starters every game as well. It's very rare that he'll cost you a DMP. But some of the other wins I've got, I managed to win a Jeremy Frimpong. I can't remember what tier he was in, but I remember being really surprised that I won him because I think I finished like 20th in U23 or something like that. And I thought Jeremy Frimpong was a great win considering where I finished in that division at the time.
Yeah, I've seen the Frimpong come out for you. I only just the member berry went off for me there when you said that. But yeah, it was like a tier 3 or a tier. It was something quite naff, wasn't it?
It was low, yeah. It was
his
low.
L10 is pretty minging, but to be fair, you know, so in and out the team and everything.
That's it. I've got him in super rare, so I'm very, very familiar with like how and when you have to use him. But I think he's one of those players who really suffers when you know, he's flinging balls in from wider. He's very decisive dependent in terms of his good scoring. He needs that 60 score as his floor, because he can put up -20s on the all around in certain games. And yeah, I think he did that in the Europa League final. I'm pretty sure he scored like -30 or something like that overall. So yeah, he is that kind of. He has got a really bad L15, L5, but winning him at this time of the season, you'd normally be like, whatever. But going into the Euros, you'd expect him to be knocking on the door for a starting place for the Netherlands, and they've got they've got some good fixtures, haven't they? Coming up in their seeing he's got a friendly against, is that Canada? They played in Canada, yeah, next game week, which is a really random friendly pre-Euros for the Canadians to be making their way over, but that could be a good fixture on its own. Could earn me a few quid straight away.
Yeah, I like that. The friendlies are a good. So they want them to be is kind of practice, isn't it? For the internationals. One thing that's just caught my eye just while we're talking about all this is many would have probably seen Sorare have had Gundogan and Royce doing some ambassador like promo ads and stuff like that. I just seen a tweet from @Detroit Bad Boy SR on Twitter. And if you go and check out, if you go into Gundogan, if you just find them like this, any player in Sorare you can do this with. Over here, it will show you if they have an actual manager page. And look at his wee icon. It's proper. I can't really see it's tiny here, but it's a proper wee Euros element. It's got his wee Hall of Fame card and everything, which is cool. But what the tweet was showing is the wee Silky Ilky has been busy. Been buying some cards up over the last day or two. He's been getting his Germans together. He's getting ready for the Euros with some of his Dortmund pals as well. Sancho and Hummels maybe played the wee Champions League final with some of them. So yeah, it's good to see Silky Ilky is getting in amongst it. Wonder how much you'll want for this card.
Quite surprised. I'm surprised he's gone in them limiteds. Oh, he must be on a decent wedge.
Yeah.
But he thought he's gone in. Someone should have told him, he's got that nice rare card of his own that he could use. Should be able to get a few more rares
Wait till he starts talking to Usman Dembele, and then they'll be back on buying super rares together.
I wonder if Griezmann, how active he is. He was always something used to pop up on the auctions. I used to notice his name quite a bit. I wonder who the most active players actually are on the platform. I sold a card to Davy Klaassen once. He bought my Mazraoui off me when he moved to Bayern. So yeah, that was quite cool. And I had an offer from Dante Vanzier on a card once as well.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, we put an offer in. Really bad one as well. If you're listening, Dante, you need to up your game, mate. He's trying to
Timbo in the chat here was talking to Lord Vanaken about Sorare strategy. That's great. Love that.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so
I wonder if he knows how much of a legend he is on the game.
Oh, he must. Yeah, he must by now. Like, it's too long for him not to. So yeah, it's definitely going to be all exciting in a few different ways. Friendlies, nice little addition, and then seeing, more of the ambassadors and all the rest of it kind of getting involved, which is lovely.
Yeah,
but you kind of started this off, Stishy Boy, by asking me if I was doing any kind of trims and moves with the gallery, and nothing, as I say, for me is really that seismic. It's just kind of staying in the lane of where I've been at, but maybe just firm up some of the edges. But what about yourself? Coming into the back end of last season, moving through the summer with what we know, how it's all going to shake out. We've not even got to card factories and stuff like that yet. I suppose we'll move on to that next. But, like how are you kind of moving through the summer in this international period? Are you focused on anything in particular, or what's kind of, shaking your boat over the last kind of month in terms of your strategy and your club and whatnot?
I've been pretty still in the market, kind of like waiting for the right time. I think if there's anything I do need, it's I need a super rare goalkeeper in champ for next season. Otherwise, if the sort of special weeklies don't fall in my favour, I'm going to have quite a few good cards that are going to be of very little use to me in champ. Some of the U23 ones will be all right, but anyone who's over 23, super rare champ card, I'm not going to have a place for them anywhere. And there's some I'm just going to filter my gallery just to remind myself who these players are. But if I go into champ and then filter by super rare and just have a quick look at, so most of them are still U23s, but then I've got like Luis Mia, Lautaro Giannetti, Chris Furyk. I don't know how many of these age out in the summer. William Carvalho, but I'm not too concerned. He may well end up in Saudi Arabia, but there's quite a few cards there that if I'm not using him in U23, Lucas Roberto is another good one. But yeah, most of mine luckily are U23. So Sepp Vandenberg, Frimpong, Malero, Cherky, Araujo, Odilon, Van Ecke, Eric Martel. So I've got quite a lot of U23, but there's enough there that I could have a good entry in Champ Super Rare if I have a goalkeeper. So I'm still, you know, I don't want to rush into it. That's one thing. I've been keeping an eye on the market, but I haven't. Nothing's like it smacked me in the face just yet. I was having a little look before we came on today again, just at seeing what the sort of auctions were coming up, and obviously noticed that Saint Etienne went up the other day, yep. And Larsener is quite a good option because I've got Green in the backup in Super Rare, so he might be a good option now. Although I don't know how well they're going to fare in Ligue 1 compared to the second tier, where they've been, you know, hot and cold the last couple of seasons down there anyway. So they could well end up being really poor in Ligue 1. So I'm not sure if I'm that concerned about that. I think there is still value to be found in the market, especially if they're the slightly older goalkeepers. Maybe I just go that route with it, or maybe I do some trading and see if I can get one of those, you know, like the bot accounts. But that super rare trading is difficult. I don't know about you, but I just find it really difficult to get the price or anywhere close to the price that you think they're worth until something goes on auction. But then obviously you're not getting the value of the trade. So there hasn't been a lot of movement in my gallery. I've been a couple of things that have left. I sold a goalkeeper. I did have a super rare goalkeeper card, like a contender one, who I sold for about 180 quid because I think he's just in sort of momentarily at the moment, and I just thought I'd let him go and sort of take the money. Always good to cash out on a few cards. So yeah, I'd say I don't have a overall major strategy just yet. I think I want to see what I've got. I think once that first sort of couple of game weeks of the season, when we can see exactly how many, I don't want to waste too many cards. I think that's my big worry at the moment. Is like, I don't want to get into the beginning of next season and be like, oh, I've got like 50 really good cards I can't use anywhere because I haven't got this or this. And it's hard for me to like really envisage what that looks like until it's staring me in the face. And I'm like, oh, I haven't got a forward for that division, or I haven't got this because I'm so used to playing cap modes and all-star and U23. And I still think like a lot of my gallery is U23, and I'm thinking that hopefully opening up to multi-entry might balance out the fact that we haven't got all-star, or we haven't got cap 270 or something like that. But yeah, until the season starts and we see who the first choice players are, where they've moved to and stuff like that as well. So it's hard, but at the moment I just want to sit tight, try and enjoy the Euros, and see where I'm at come like August time, I think.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So I think, like, you know, we've all kind of seen the writing on the wall with how things have changed now for a number of months. It being end of season doesn't really change too much, but you know, things happen. There's moving pieces all over the place, and just wondering if there was anything, like, you know, been going on with you over the last couple of weeks. I think the main thing that a lot of people have been kind of chewing over and trying to wrap their head around to one extent or another is we found out from Sorare that our clubs are all expanding. We're all getting a new wing, a new division of the club called the Card Factory, where we will have the ability to craft some cards of our own. And there's a few kind of theories and missing details still kind of floating around there and all the rest of it. This is something that I met with open arms, Tish. I think overall everyone else is, but it'll be interesting to hear what, you know, your kind of first take is on this stuff, and, you know, thoughts and feelings. Card Factory in essence.
I like it, mate. It sounded like a fragrance advert when I was reading it. It's like the whole essence, and they didn't want to give too much away, did they? That was one thing I would say. Like the vibe I got from it was that this is going to replace winning tier 4s and 5s for a lot of people. It might be like some of those cards that maybe would get one in the reward boxes are now going to be replaced with this essence thing. So they're not giving away too many cards. Maybe there must be a game reason for it as well. This must be partly to like relieve the pressure on the market a little bit, and maybe the supply of cards. But yeah, I like the idea that you might be able to sort of save up your essence or your XP or whatever it is and instead of just winning like a bog standard card, you can wait and sit tight and save up and hopefully pick up something a little bit more what you actually need. I don't know how much we're going to get to see, but it'd be nice, if you could be like, right, I need a champ goalkeeper, and it's like, all right, champ goalkeeper is going to be this much essence, but you won't know what one it's going to be. And then like this will be a champ goalkeeper tier 4 is going to cost you this. I don't know that they'll give us that much choice, to be honest, because that would just expend a lot of the goalkeeper supply, I think, because a lot of people will want goalkeepers, firstly because they're too expensive to buy compared to the rest of the teams, but also if you are just trying to cash out, selling a goalkeeper is probably the easiest card to sell. In my experience, might not always be the case, but in my experience, if you list a goalkeeper at floor, you're going to get offers for it if it's a starter. So yeah, I like it. I think it's something different. And if it's in reward boxes, it might give people an opportunity to save up for cards that wouldn't necessarily, obviously I think reward boxes have been good and we've had some wins out of them. We've seen people winning good cards there. So I think that was a step in the right direction. And I think this is a step further in the right direction, that, if you're just winning like tickets for rivals or something like that, but this is going to hopefully onboard people into like having a card collection that maybe wouldn't have had one before unless they just won, they got lucky. And this is like a little bit more of a visible chance at saving up. And I think for more casual players, this will be really good. People who play, especially like when we lose all of the divisions we're losing, come like August, every division is going to be rewarding boxes, that all the ones that are available to play anyway. So we're going to see a lot of people winning these essence capsules, and yeah, hopefully it doesn't take them too long to craft something half decent for themselves.
Yeah, I think like I don't think we'll be able to pin it all the way into like a champ keeper and stuff like that. But one thing I have been thinking about when I've been tuning this over myself, I did a little unboxing video on the channel. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, feel free to check it out. But see with how they're talking about how like you're going to manufacture a card and essence and sports science and Sorare Industries and all that crap. Like, I think that there's 100% you will be making cards that fit your gallery. And I'm not too sure how they're going to do that. I believe maybe the collection bonus, maybe like the badges you unlock for a collection. Like, I think some of these things will play into the RNG of it all. So I don't think I'll ever say to you like, it's going to be a Celtic tier 3 or something, but it's going to be a tier 3. And then you're kind of looking at all your clubs and going, right, well, what collections have I got? And it's maybe just stacking the odds a wee bit in your favor. You could still maybe get somebody totally random that doesn't totally fit you, but maybe this does. Like, if there's a tier 4 that is fitting one of your collections, it's just going to grab it and give you it rather than spinning the dice or rolling the wheel for you. Or if there isn't one available there, maybe it does spin the dice, roll the wheel, but it's going to be in a more confined kind of batch of people that will suit you, even though it's not a Celtic player, but it's either a Motherwell or an Aberdeen player, or that kind of thing. So I think, like, because it is like your club, it's your club's factory, and it was just part of it all. I was thinking, like, how do they help make sure that when you're redeeming it, you're buzzing? Because that's what they want. They want people happy with the progress they're making. They want people to feel like they're winning each step of the game, whatever budget they're on, however they're trying to sharpen their edge, or what kind of little path they're trying to cut through the map of it all. And when I see those little emblems on my screen, I'll just put it on screen again here. But when I see these little ones here, maybe it's the ones you select. You only get to pick 3 of them, and there's non-club ones as well, obviously. But is it that? Is it maybe what ones you've got unlocked? Is it that you've got all champion collections or all challenger or that kind of thing? But I do think it will be way better than people have anticipated, in the sense of, like, it's not a viable reward strategy, right? In the sense of, like, I'm just going to play for essence, but it's going to be something that, like, your essence will be like, oh no, I need, the only guy left in the collection is a tier 1 and he's 500 quid, and there's no way I'm going to buy him, but I'm going to cross my fingers and get a T1. And then if I've got the big collection on my side, then it should maybe spit that out or get me something of the equivalent, and then I can trade it later or whatever.
When I first read or first heard whatever way it was, I can't remember, but when I first started reading, I was like, when I heard the term card factory, I thought we were going to be able to like make our own designs, like choose the way they look. I don't think that's going to happen based on like what we've just been talking about. I think it would make no sense for them to like give it some kind of special mark. But I do wonder if like if the crafted cards will look exactly the same as the minted cards, which they probably will. But I thought that'd be really cool if like the card factory allowed you to kind of like put a little watermark on it or something like that, something like your club logo somewhere hidden away in the watermark behind a player or something. I don't know, but I like the idea. I still think they're missing a trick somewhere in some kind of customization of cards. I know we can't like deface them because of probably like licensing and that. You can't start drawing like a moustache on Messi's face and selling that as an NFT or something. But it'd be nice to be able to sort of like pick, I don't know, maybe retro kits or something, like have some kind of like special version of cards that you can only win. We had those back in the day, that game week 200 it was, I think, where we had those special cards. I've still got my Rodrigo from that week that I won, and you couldn't buy those cards on the market. You had to win them that week or buy them from someone who won one. And I'm really surprised we haven't had that again since, because I thought that was brilliant. And when I saw Card Factory, I was like, oh, we're going to get some funny looking cards again, but maybe not.
I had that first impression when I first opened it until what I thought it was going to do was give you the ability to maybe like customize a card or something, like you're talking about in some way. But then as you read through it, it's like, oh no, I think it's just going to spit out cards rather than like, oh, I'm going to add a little hallmark that from the options that they give me, or maybe, like maybe not retro kits, but maybe like retro card styles. So maybe you could put it like a 2018 looking card. Or something, like use use the different templates I've had over the years or something. I think that'd be cool. I think that initial thought I had when I seen it was like, if like the first picture I had in my head was like Andy Laird putting melons and burgers all over a card or something, So I definitely think there was a wee bit of language in the announcement that made you think something like that might have been in the offing, and maybe it still is further down the road. But then when you started talking more about the limited edition ones, maybe the Card Factory releases will just look like a Card Factory release, so it will look different. And then maybe that means like, because I was thinking as well, like if I produce cards, I want them to be like my cards, obviously, like FC Barcelona desk and whatever. But like if I was to sell one or sell them into the market, like maybe maybe if I'm looking for a rare so and so, and I see that one's came out of Nanzo's factory or one's came out of your factory or something, maybe I think, oh, that would be really cool to have in my club. I'm looking for that guy anyway.
Yeah.
And, so maybe there's another wee dimension that can be played with at some point,
Definitely. But especially like we going back to the point of like players like Gundogan on there, and like the active players. Imagine you've got like one of his mints. It's like, oh, I bought one of Gundo's mints off of him or something. His Card Factory special. Yeah, especially as you get more and more into the depths of the game. I think as time goes on, if this game becomes some like household normal game that people just play like as big as FPL or something like that, people will want like that. Oh, they'll go back and like the signature cards and things will become really sought after by people and collectors.
Yeah, I agree. And I've just had another we were talking about this earlier, like shirt swapping. So I've went, and this is a bit of a sad one, right? Because I wasn't going to do it if he stayed at Lazio, right? But the fact he's leaving Lazio and going to Palace and all the rest of it, I didn't actually need to pay anything for this one. I just did a straight swap and the guy accepted it. But I managed to get Kamada in the Europa League winning season, which is cool buzz. Cool buzz for me. So don't need to worry about the Lazio hate following him around. And yeah, that's quite cool. Didn't need to pay anything for that shirt swap. That was a fun one.
I think that design is my favorite card design so far as well. Like that season, the like hexagonal background. I think that's my personal favorite. In terms of,
I like it for supers and I like it for rookies. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I've got the Lehan Bomb rookie from that year, and that's like the unique one. And that's it. Yeah, that's a good one. I can probably share that.
Got a wee question in the chat here. I'll do my best to answer while we're moving on to the next piece. But in terms of the Marseille goalkeeper position, Paul Lopez has always been a goalkeeper that will have Sorare managers pulling their hair out. Like sometimes, like you can see his scores, he will kill you sometimes, and he has been rotation bait. But the problem with Marseille is they change managers so often. It really is hard to get a handle on, the situation there. I would just say if you are going to get a Paul Lopez, because he is cheap, try and get his handcuff as soon as you can. The guy, I think his name is Blanco. He's another Spanish goalkeeper they've got as well, but he's not a bad goalkeeper either. So it's one of those things I would, if the price is appealing, fine, but hedge your bets with it in any way possible. Did you have a screenshot? It's gone now.
I was going to show you the Lehan bomb.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's get there. See if you can switch that on.
Yeah. Boom.
There.
That's nice.
I think that's a nice card for me. That's probably the best looking card I've got in my gallery. They're unique from that season. And that was my first unique I bought as well.
Topper.
Yeah. Just need him to start playing again now.
Yeah, I think there's always a wee period of acclimatization from the Asian players that join what used to be Challenger Europe, but is now just non-champion Europe. So I think his time could be nigh. So
yeah,
a fun one to watch out for. But yeah, I like those card designs, and maybe not quite you can mint them in old season style, but yeah, maybe there's something that goes along with them that gives them a bit of personality or gives them their own kind of. Because again, I've seen this in my unboxing with it, Stish, right? And this is probably the best kind of venue to talk about this, right? But I think, sorry, I'm not even too sure somebody's at my door. I might need to pause for a second. But what I was going to say there is, like, when it's even to get into like Sorare Industries and your factory and all this kind of stuff, I've played other games. Oh, 2 seconds. I'm going to have to pause. 2 seconds.
Okay. I'm still here while we're pausing, but for those of you that are in the chat, he's just gone to sort something out. Front door's gone. But yeah, there's a couple of questions in the chat as well we'll pick up about the Olympics particularly, which are going to be covered by Sorare. So we'll get into a bit of that when Quinny gets back. But yeah, if you're waiting on that, the Olympics will be covered by Sorare. Mourinho to Fenerbahce. He's back.
Sorry, I've got bins and stuff getting dealt with quickly. Sorry. But what I was going to say is like, yeah, I've played other games like where they do seasons and they do passes and this kind of stuff. And what you often find is like there's a little trailer, there's a little movie, and it kind of sets the scene for the next couple of months. And a game that I used to talk about playing quite a lot, it's a shooter, it's called Rainbow Six Siege. And when I started reading Sorare Industries, that was the first thing that came in my mind is like maybe going forward, like when they do these special events, like it just gives them something to kind of frame it in and something to kind of give them a venue to, host any of these innovations and these new ideas or whatever. So it's definitely cheesy and a little bit tongue in cheek for the most part, if you know what I mean. But, it is a game, so the game needs to have something going on in it. Obviously, it's real world football and fantasy football and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of like my club, FC Barcelona and Club Tropicana Drinks FC and, all the other Sorare clubs that are around there, and like there's so much to be tapped into in terms of just engagement, enjoyment, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, maybe a wee bit cringe for some of you out there, but that's just for you guys. But if you're when you've got your knuckles into this and you're like, yes, this is my club, this is my cards, and you're being as mental as me and shirt swapping blue cards just so they look nicer, or you've got a season you prefer or whatever, then like it makes this stuff like I think just a little bit cooler, a little bit more palatable, in that way.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because another thing I've been thinking about this week was obviously we haven't spoken about it on the podcast since it was announced, but Tony Cruz obviously announced his retirement, and he's been a card that's been in my gallery since, the very early days of me playing the game. And he's still to this day, like putting up big scores, but we know that he's got maybe a few games left before he's gone for good, playing in the Euros. And there's a part of me that's like, I could sell into the fact that he's going to play for Germany. You're getting a few good scores out of him if you're really trying to target that tournament. He's a pretty good card to have. Do I sell him now, maybe get 50 quid back for him, or just like hold on to him for a few more games and then, essentially he just lives in my gallery as like a dormant like legend card? And yeah, how do you feel about that, Quinny? Is it like what do you do in that situation? Do you just hold on to him, or do you just try and cash in for 40 odd quid or whatever now?
Nah, you keep him, don't you? Like, I was kind of in that situation with Joe Hart a little bit. I've still traded one or two of them out, but I've kept one or two of them because there's just not much point in selling them in that way. But I think if you've definitely had it, for that length of time and he's won you stuff and whatever, like, what are you going to get for it? It's not really, I'd rather just, like, emboss that and stick it on the wall,
Yeah.
the clubhouse.
He can go in there like legend, the Hall of Fame or something, like, and just sit there with next to Gareth Bale, who's also in there somewhere. Like, I've got a few players that have retired that are just in the gallery now, and because what you can do, sell them for a $5 or something. It's almost not worth the money. But I think because Cruz has still got a little bit of utility, there is that like slight air where I'm like, maybe I cash him in. But it's weird how you become attached to these cards. And Tony Cruz is definitely one of the best cards I've had in the galleries. Definitely won some of the most cards, I think, out of everything I've got that's still there from the early days. But I just wanted to touch on something else that came up in the chat, which we haven't touched on. But someone asked if Sorare are covering the Olympics, and obviously the answer to that question is yes, they are going to be covering the Olympics. And I mean, we haven't had too much communication about like where those fall, if there's going to be any kind of special. They're probably going to have to be played in All-Star, that kind of thing, U23. But interestingly, does bring us on to the fact that some of the nations are starting to release their lineups for the Olympics, and France in particularly released theirs today. And Lacazette's in there, Mateta's in there, Michael Elise is in there, which is great for him. No Mbappe, Castello Lucaba's in there. There's no Malo Gusto in there. It's quite an unusual squad. No Cherky in there. Calamuendo's in there. Barcola's in there. Lacazette's in there. So it's a bit different to the Euro squad, which you'd expect because players need a rest. Obviously, there was a little bit more onus on the France squad for this one because it is in Paris and there's the whole trying to win it at home thing. But really interesting. Going to be keeping an eye on the updates. But I was really surprised to not see Cherky in there. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but did you?
It was a surprise. It did feel like Henri was maybe fostering him a little bit when he first got that job and was getting a good tune out of him. But who knows? Maybe he's planning on trying to get transfer completed. Maybe he's not totally fit. But the France team, especially when they can get 3 overage players in, like the youth squads are just ridiculously good. So it should be a really big summer for them. And it's hard to see like these youth levels. It's always France, Spain, Germany that always go on and absolutely rinse it.
It'd be interesting to see how it pans out. I had a little look. I've been kind of like poking my head in to see like what teams had qualified and what effect it was going to have on the cards in my gallery. So I think for me, not seeing Cherky was a big one straight away. But I do have Calamuendo, I do have Lucaba, and I think that there'll be a few other nations involved where I've got cards of young players who are like on the fringes of the international setups for their country. So hopefully get a little bit of utility out of them. But I think particularly interesting for anyone who's got good U23 galleries. There's definitely going to be a lot of potential sort of like fringe players that are going to have a chance to hopefully get some minutes under their belt on the big stage. So fingers crossed Sorare announced something special for it. It'd be good if they do a little special weekly that is like revolves around players that are involved in the Olympics. But there hasn't been any kind of special announcement, just that they are going to be covering it. We do know that much.
Yeah. And we're kind of waiting. I suspect today we're going to get a wee bit more of a Euros announcement at point of recording. If you're watching this after we've been live, you've probably seen it by now. But we've obviously seen the announcement. I've got Zidane, who loves it. He's back to play more five-a-side fantasy football with or five-a-side real football. Might be a fantasy for some time with him again, which is cool, as well as all the other prizes and everything that are going on with it. I've got an ambassadors league all set up for it as well, so we'll wait and see when all that goes live. We'll go into all the details properly, but I think like it's just like Global Cup vibes again. And the Global Cup for me was like so much fun from like the engagement perspective. It was like the birth of rivals, the common mode, the way it went there. And, you know, how far it's came has been kind of mad to watch over the last little while. And we mentioned it earlier, like this iteration of Rivals, the little divisions, the box structure, it's brilliant. I really, really do enjoy it. And I think, like, for me, like, that's probably the biggest thing I'm excited about Sorare wise, is like having a good shot at running through like all the group stages and seeing you guys, like, not just with the competition that Sorare will be running with me, but everyone else that they run it with, and all the private leagues that you guys can get involved in. You know, we'll probably do a little end product one as well. We can fire out the link in next week's show for anyone that joins us on the live record, because you're limited to entering 5 teams or 5 leagues or whatever. So yeah, if you need another one to enter, we'll set one up for you as well. And then, yeah, it's going to be like prizes galore. Like, you remember what it was like in the Global Cup? Like, what was the guy's name? Tevin, the guy that won it, scooped up so many private leagues and he won so much cash and all the rest of it. So, like, you're limited now to 5, so there's not going to be a Tevin as such that just reigns supreme and wins everyone's private league, all the rest of it. But I think there'll be Tevin tribute acts everywhere.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of it. I'm looking forward to it. I think, you know, I'm every game of these sort of tournaments, so having like that little bit of interest in as many of them as possible with the Sorare. And Zinedine Zidane's like my all-time biggest hero on the planet. So if I get an opportunity to play football with him, I am going to take it. I won't be missing a minute of Rivals action in the hunt for minutes on the pitch with Zidane. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Quinny, you got a look on your face that says we've just seen.
Yeah, something. We'll finish on this kind of note, right? I don't know if I'd call this a bombshell, but the Casemiro to Al Nassr deal is expected to be around 90 to 100 million euros.
Wow.
In terms of transfer value. I don't know how much of that they're paying Man United, they're paying him, but like, it's well reported. Like,
for a player who's underperformed this season, that's absolutely unreal.
That is mad.
That's mad money. I thought we got past that point in Saudi. I thought that they'd kind of realised they'd overinflated the pay a bit too much. But if we're talking Casemiro for 100 mil at his age,
Champions League legend and all that, you know, with all the Real Madrid vibes going around now, you know.
Yeah, true. I mean, they've got a Real Madrid theme park over there, haven't they? Or in Dubai or something like that. Yeah.
Actually, are you joking?
No, I'm serious. There's a Real Madrid theme park either in Saudi or in. I'm going to search it now. Hold on, Real Madrid theme park. I know there is one, and it's in like Dubai or Saudi. It's in Dubai. Real Madrid World. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go. Got the star attractions, don't they?
That's it. Yeah. They get them out into the region, and before you know it, Casemiro will be the front desk in there.
Yeah. That's a mad one. I couldn't believe I've seen the trend in €100 million deal, including transfer fee. Wages, of course, is going to be a huge part of that. But it just caught my eye there and I couldn't keep it to myself. But we've been recording this. The podcast has been out on a Monday or maybe a Tuesday, depending on when you're listening to this and time zones or whatever. And this is the kind of schedule we're hoping to keep with the podcast now. We can come out of the weekend and we can kick the week off with a bit of end product action. Me and Stish have got obviously all the will in the world to get together and do the podcast every week. But it's over the last month or two, it's just been a little bit harder and a little bit harder. We've both got kids. We've both got a lot of stuff to juggle in terms of scheduling and all the rest of it. So we do thank everyone who listens to this on audio, on Twitch, on YouTube, everywhere and anywhere you do, and persevering with the slightly irregular uploads that we've had over the last month or two. But we're looking to get back into pattern, get back into form and fitness and availability and all that good stuff. But we're looking to hit early week, Monday, maybe Tuesday, depending on how it shakes out. But I think Monday, 99% of the time, we should be cooking the gas and ready to go. Stish, we've completed 90 minutes, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, mate. It's been a pleasure. And I'll catch up with you same time next week with a bit of luck, mate.
That's it, man. And hopefully we've got, a wee bit more non-European summer end product, maybe with some friendlies end product or whatever. As we next week, we'll be at the cusp of the Euros. We'll have confirmed squads probably. We'll have seen these friendlies, who was the surprise inclusion or absentee, that kind of stuff, so it should be a good one. And again, thanks to everyone that's joined us live or afterwards, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, everyone.